Alright, so today we're going to get an attacking lesson from Magnus Carlsen. So I recently played a game, and I got into a position that I normally no idea how to handle, but I'm trying to learn to attack better. And so I played an interesting game, and then I went looking in the database to see how similar people played, and I found a position that Magnus got that was almost identical. So we're going to look at what he did, and then we're going to look at how I could have improved on how I played. So the game that Magnus played it started from a different move order. It went this B6 thing, sorry, not B6, D4, Knight F6, and here it started from a semi-Tarrasch and then transposed into something that we play. So we have this Bishop B4 and takes, and now castles, Bishop C4, Knight D7. This is all standard stuff, and we get to this position, which transposes to something straight out of the ChessGoals repertoire. So rook to c8 was what was played, and then bishop to b3, and now rook to e8. And Magnus plays rook to e3 here, already sort of eyeing this idea of maybe swinging across, but I think also just stopping the rook from coming to c3 as well. A tempting move would be to play queen f4, which is actually something that I did play in my game, but here it's not so great because the queen could come out and we just kind of like get this like standoff, and white doesn't really want to trade queens here. It's probably okay, but we don't want to. So rook to e3 comes, and now knight f6, and then d5, e takes d5, and e5. And this is a really cool idea. The point is that we've sacrificed this pawn, but we've blunted this bishop, and we've kicked this knight out of f6, and we've gotten the d4 square, which is going to give us easy access to the f5 square, and which is, again, very similar to what happened in my game. So knight to e4 happens, and I would be sort of worried about this, but he just drops the queen back, and he's got an idea. I mean, the position's like totally in the balance. The queen comes across, jumps the knight to d4, again heading for e5, and also freeing up this f pawn so that we can kick the pawn out. So a6 happens. We're stopping knight b5 with the idea of trying to come to d6 with tempo, winning, an exchange. So h4 happens, and this is a move that doesn't really immediately make sense to me. I get it if there's like a pawn that's been moved and we're trying to crack things open, but this is just a nice attacking idea. This is the kind of position where I get sort of confused because like I don't even see how to threaten to make a threat. So it's like this is weird for me, but it's interesting because we're just gonna start moving our pieces generally in the side of towards the king. So rook cd8. Now f3, kicking this knight out. Knight to c5. Maybe we're gonna, take this bishop, but we should probably be okay with that. h5 again. Maybe I'm gonna go h6 and force you to play here and crack things open. The queen has access out to the g3 square. Another nice benefit of f3. So knight to e6 happens, saying no, not gonna do that. Now we jump into f5, and now queen g3 is coming with a major threat, and g6 is already walking into a capture, opening up the king some more. He tries d4, and Magnus just doubles, and he says, I'm just going to take my pawn back. Yes, your bishop is open, but it's blunted by this, and black doesn't really have any threats, whereas the white kingside attack is starting to look a bit scary, although, to be honest, like, I still don't see any immediate threat. Knight c5, and now rook takes d4. We've got our pawn back, and we still have an active position. Don't even take the knight back because we come here with threat. And g6 happens. Take knight now. And now bishop takes f3 was apparently the best, which is a little bit nuts. But so more natural move, trying to trade off the pieces. And now just e6, which is a fantastic idea. The point is our knight is covering this square. The pawns are blocking here. You take my queen, that's checkmate. So queen comes in for a check, drops back, and you still can't really take here. Okay, so we take, but then, we lose the rook, so that's, never too late to hang a rook, right? Rook takes, and then e7, and the rook can't get back. The queen technically can get back, but then we can just take the rook, and we have this nice pawn here. So this is already really, really difficult. So here, and he doesn't even take the rook. Just queen e5, threatening mate. Maybe I'll take here, and if you take my knight, I'll make a queen, and you got to give up your queen. This is crazy. So here, and like again, doesn't even bother to take the rook or defend his knight, just plays king to g3, lights out, game over. So this is what Magnus did. He led with the pawn, even when there was no g6 move, and it was just going to casually try to induce weaknesses on the board. One thing that was nice about this h5 move when he played it early on, before putting the knight to f5, was that this h5 makes g6 uncomfortable, so it gives us access to this f5 square. So if we look at the game that I played, it came from a different move order, the Queen's Gambit move order, but we quickly, you see, we transposed to exactly the same thing. So bishop d2 takes, and now bishop c4, knight d7, and I castle, and instead of b6, knight to b6 was played, sort of touching the bishop. And really, like, should be pretty happy to see this, because now the knight doesn't come to here to help defend the king side. It gives us this e5 square. I drop the bishop back. Notice this thing is so similar to Magnus's game already. Bishop to d7, and I assumed he was going to go to c6, which I didn't have any problems with. So I just played rook to a1. I was just going to play the standard thing. This is the same thing that Magnus played on move 14 of his game. It can't be that bad, right? But actually a4 is nice, because what we're doing with a4 is we're preventing the bishop from coming to a4 or b5, and sort of forcing the bishop to remain sort of passive. So something like a4, a5 stopping us from kicking the knight out, because the knight doesn't have the access to the d7 square. And now we can just jump into e5, you know, something like the queen comes, and now we can play f4, and we have f5 with a pretty devastating looking attack here. This is really already difficult to play. Bishop can come to c6, we go e3, knight comes to d7, and now we get this nice d5 intermezzo, and after takes, the bishop's got to drop back, we go d6, and we have a pretty comfortable position here. We've got a pass pawn, we've got an open f-file, we've got a better bishop, we've got a target on f7, we've got a target on b7. Like everybody should be happy to play this. Anyway, excuse me, I played rook 81, and black misses his opportunity to play bishop to a4 instead. Again, not a problem. I just moved the rook out of the way. I didn't see an issue here. And now rook c8, and now I play queen to f4. And again, here is not such a great option now. I can just move back, but it seems maybe I can also just take and mess up the pawn structure, although that's probably fine for black. It's probably best just to drop back. So we're learning from Magnus that, like, you don't gotta lead with the queen. Instead, I think Magnus would have probably played d5 immediately, which is not a move I really considered just yet, but it's actually really, really quite strong. And not because we're going to go for the same idea that Magnus did, which was actually my intention if I was going to do this, but because we can just take the pawn. And this pawn, I thought this pawn was going to be kind of like weak, because it's isolated, and like it seems like it's already sort of kind of blockaded, but it's not. So knight to c4, trying to establish a blockade. We can just take, and then after takes, we just push, and push again. And if you try to attack it, well, we defend it. And if you try to kick my knight, this is great. We have queen d6, forcing this bishop to move away somewhere. There's nowhere to go with it. Takes a pawn, fine. We attack your bishop. We attack your bishop again. You kind of try to come back, and we have rook a3, and forcing this trade. And now black's completely paralyzed. Just totally and utterly completely paralyzed. I've tried, for example, rook f7. Well, it's already over. We just take here, make a queen, game over. So actually, d5 here was immediately really quite strong. I chose queen to f4 instead, and we get this bishop move, trying to trade off my bishop, which makes sense. He's afraid that I'll play d5, open this diagonal. So I push d5 anyway, and now takes, push, and then push back. So we have like a really similar position to what Magnus had, except for I have moved the queen out first, whereas he chose to play rook to e3, defending against the c3 square. Rook to c3 is actually quite an annoying move right now. It's difficult to meet. Instead, my opponent played queen to e7, and here I played knight to d4 immediately. But again, something that like Magnus did was, the computer agrees here, that like just play h4. So something like h4, and if black makes sort of like natural moves, bringing the rook to the center, defending the pawn, then I can play knight d4. And if g6 now, trying to prevent this, I have queen to g3, and I'm threatening this move again. And if you try to bring the knight in to put pressure on this pawn, I can play knight f5 immediately. If you had tried to play like king h8 instead, well, now h5 comes, and if you now it's like maybe too late to play knight d7 because I get e6, and this is a really uncomfortable. You can't take. I mean, you can, but I wouldn't encourage this. You can't take it. And the knight's got to like move out of the way already. But now I can take here with tempo. You're forced to take here. We get like h6 now, or queen g5 even. Queen g5 is nice because it threatens to come into here. But just leading with this pawn before we start messing about with the rooks is quite a nice plan. I played knight d4 immediately, and this gives white an opportunity to play g6 when I can't immediately go h5. I need to spend quite a bit of time. So leading with the pawn is definitely the way to go here. So I played knight d4. He goes ahead and plays g6, and now I played rook to e3. And again, now we have this hook, this triangle position with the king. Now h4, h5 is a really nice way to just start kicking things off. But you know, I didn't see that. It wasn't clear to me that this was going to work immediately, and I wanted to just bring the rook up, and I had dreams of like this kind of an idea. I'm so terrible with arrows, guys. You got to give me a break here. a6, which during the game I was sort of shocked. I thought that was like the weirdest move ever, and I guess he's wanting to prevent this idea, which makes sense. I guess I get it. Here I actually missed the opportunity to go queen h6, and I didn't ever really do this because I thought you would just play f5, and then I didn't know what I was doing. But f5, I should be pleased. If I induce f5, I should be thrilled. I have a passed pawn, and now h4 is really quite strong, and it's difficult to handle this. I mean, for example, try to bring the knight back, attack this guy. Well, now just h5. And you can't take the pawn because, you know, I have this move. Sorry, not here. Because they're here, and like trying to defend it, well, good luck. Sorry, not that. You can't. So h5 again, or coming in here and allowing h5. I spent so much energy this game trying to prevent h5. Instead, I played rook to g3, and I was so focused on this knight f5 idea that like it's like I thought it was like the only game in town. But I have other options. I have other ideas to try to attack here. The king dropped out of the way, and now I finally come up with this move here, and then I push it again, and you know I have a really strong position now. I've done great, but mostly because my opponent misplayed. Like, could have made this a lot harder for me, and even had some opportunities to try to play for an advantage. Like back here, if instead of here he had just played rook c to e8, putting pressure on this pawn, it's me who is under some pressure, and I have to actually just go back. Which is another reason why we go slow. We lead with the pawn. We leave the rook defending the e-pawn so that black doesn't get this sort of counter pressure. The king h8, respecting my attack, push, and he went here, and now I played back. But like again, like rook to f3 is actually really quite a nice move. And I didn't quite understand why. I thought I was preventing f5 because I was so worried about this f5 move. I really shouldn't be. King to g8 was played, and this is actually should just be game over. I played rook to e1, but I just have a really simple tactic here. Takes, and check. And I pick up the rook. I'm going to pick up the pawn. I have a passed pawn. This is like a lights out situation. But I was so focused on knight f5 being the only game, the only idea, that I didn't even consider. I just thought I could never really take here while this rook was still in the f file. I mean, of course, if he plays this way, well, now it's like simple. I can play rook h3. I can play here. I can give a checkmate. But rook e1 was played. He comes out, and I still have this opportunity to do exactly the same thing I just didn't do a move before. Instead, I play queen to h6, which gives away like all the advantage. And black doesn't go it. It gives me another opportunity. I had 3 chances to play this idea, and I didn't play it any of them. Instead, I played knight f5, sort of like hoping that he would take. And then my idea was to take here, and he can't take my rook because I have this mate. He can give this check, and I thought I will jump out of the way, and he still can't really take. He's got to go to h8, and this is what I was hoping for, something like this. By this point, I was in severe time pressure. Like I got down to just seconds on the clock, and I just played knight f5 seeing that he's not going to take the knight. He just plays here, and like I lost on time. So this is it was a nice game. I missed like a nice tactical win, but this idea of leaving the rooks more in the center and just leading with the pawn, even when there's no g6, really nice idea. And hopefully I will learn from that and be able to attack better in the future. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll see you around. Bye-bye.